Hi there guys, and welcome back to Same Ship Different Day. A bit of a different one today. I'm bringing you a very quick, unplanned, unscheduled review, reaction video of what just happened on board the MSC Lirica over in Corfu, Greece. She was alongside and the starboard side of the vessel caught fire. I'm going to be bringing you that footage and telling you more about the ship, more about what the reactions of the crew most likely were, and telling you a bit about what I would be thinking if I was on board that ship. If that sounds good, let's crack on and go through it all. Okay guys, just to give you a bit of information about me, for those who don't already know me, I've worked for Princess Cruises and P&O Australia for almost 9 years now, starting as cadet back in 2012. I've been working on cruise ships for all that time, working my way from cadet all the way up to senior second officer, which is what I am now, which puts me at 5th in command of the vessel. Hopefully I'd never be in a situation where the command would get that far down the chain, but just to let you know basically what my position is. I work on the bridge, I navigate, I do emergency response, we train for fires and things like that quite a lot, but I'll be telling you a bit more about that later on. So that's my experience, and hopefully I can give you some more information that either you haven't heard yet or you just didn't know about at all. That's what I'm trying to bring you today, so let's get started. Before I begin, as always, my views and opinions do not reflect those of my employer, Princess Cruises Carnival Corporation, P&O Australia, of course. I'm currently on board Pacific Explorer, which is a similar sized vessel to the one we're going to be talking about today. MSC Lirica is currently in Corfu alongside. She's in pause operations, same as all the ships for Princess and P&O. She's not got any passengers on board, fortunately, in this situation, and she's down to a reduced manning with only 51 crew members on board at the time of the fire. Fortunately, that was enough to get the fire under control in the end, but wow, what a scary time for those crew on board. MSC Lirica is a Italian-owned, Panama-flagged vessel, part of the MSC group. Obviously, they do cruises as well as cargo ships. This is one of their first cruise ships for the new builds for MSC, the Lirica, and she was built in 2002 with her first voyaging going on in 2003, pretty much the same time as they built a sister ship, the MSC Opera. Size of this ship, 275 meters in length, so not too dissimilar to the ship I'm currently on. Let's start looking at some of the footage then, and I'll be giving you some background whilst we watch it. As you can see, most likely taken on a camera phone from shoreside, so by this point the fire had already developed into quite considerable size. You can't see too many flames at the moment, just a bit coming off that tender boat. That seems to be the place of origin for this fire. Could have been a couple of ways that it happened, but you can see by this point hopefully the crew are already taking action, mustering their fire teams and trying to fight this fire. On board most ships you have two fire teams, the deck fire team and the engine fire team, made up of deck and technical personnel separately. The reason you have two fire teams like that is so that both teams have experience of the technical areas and the accommodation areas and deck areas around the ship, so you can decide who to send in or use both teams at the same time, or rotate them accordingly, whatever the on-scene command or the person in charge decides to do. At this stage, what you can't see is any kind of exterior fire extinguishing system. Most ships with Princess, at least all the ships that I've worked on in the past, have some form of balcony drencher system, which is essentially an overboard sprinkler system, so you can release water over the balconies and over the side of the ship to try and tackle any such fire like this one. This would be a very useful system. Also what we have is balcony detection, so fire detectors, flame detectors on the balconies around the ship and on that boat deck as well, so we can detect that fire early. Hopefully these guys got onto it as fast as possible, but with so few crew members on board it is quite likely that they were a little slow realizing what was happening. The reason we have all those kind of fire detection systems and firefighting systems on board Princess ships is following the 2006 Star Princess fire, where there was a balcony fire caused by a cigarette being flicked overboard, blowing back onto the ship whilst at sea in the Caribbean, and that started a fire which then spread very quickly, very scary situation. I did speak to a few of the crew members that were on board at the time, and they were very worried. Fortunately, eventually the fire was brought under control, and the Star Princess was able to make it to port safely. This was in 2006, and at that point Princess took that action to install these firefighting systems and fire detection systems. The ship that we're looking at, the MSC Lirica, was built in 2002, and therefore before this time, and if MSC decided not to install these systems afterwards, which they may well have done, or decided not to, that may be why they don't have these systems in operation in this video, and they may not have them on board at all. The fire's really starting to pick up. You can see that thick black smoke probably coming from the burning fiberglass that makes up those tenders and lifeboats as the fire's spreading from the origin along that bulkhead and that deck head over to the forward boats, and you can see them slowly burning, that flame really getting going now. See what you've got inside those tenders, in addition to, you know, the usual seats and things that you might have experienced, you've actually got pyrotechnics in there. So you've got hand flares, you've got parachute rocket flares as well. All of these will be burning up and only fueling the fire in there and helping it spread as it gets to this stage. You can see it also spreading up onto the balconies above, burning through even those steel and anything flammable on those balconies at all, possibly spreading into the cabins. From the reports I've read, they say there was no interior damage, but that's hard to believe that there was absolutely nothing. Obviously we'll have to see what reports come out in the future, but certainly there would have been a lot of smoke that managed to get into the ship, I'm sure. The MSC Lirica herself is a 275 metre, 65, just over 1,000 ton, gross ton vessel. She's quite a similar size to the Explorer, a little bit thinner, but actually a little bit longer, but they did add 25 meters to her during a dry dock in 2015, so that'll be why she's that extra long shape. So a similar sized vessel to the one I am working on, which makes this extremely prudent to me to see this and see what happens. We'll be waiting for a full report down the line. I'm just bringing you the first reaction, the first look footage essentially, and what might have happened and how it went down. So possible causes, as I discussed, may well be cigarette. It could also be work maintenance going on in the area, hot work such as welding, grinding, that then sparks or whatever was caused may have resulted in catching fire to the canvas that is used usually in the doorways of the tenders, as it's a partially enclosed lifeboat. This could have caught fire and then set in motion a chain of events that led to the large flames that we saw and the incredible damage that fires can cause on board a ship. Also, this fire actually started at 3:42 p.m. local time in Corfu on the 12th of March and burned for well over 3 hours. Amazingly, the teams on board managed to get it under control without the assistance of the shoreside teams, from the reports I've read. However, I do believe they had some assistance from the tugs in the harbour that were able to come over and use their water cannons and their fire hoses in order to provide extra assistance and some external firefighting. Another possible cause for the fire would be potentially an electrical fault. The boats are plugged in 24 hours a day whilst in the stowage position to charge their battery and ensure that they're ready to go should there be a genuine emergency and the need to use these lifeboats or tenders. So in this situation, it's possible that that may have happened, or also along that deck there would have been a hydraulic power pack and a hydraulic power station in which you would find an hydraulic pump as well as electrical systems to enable the launching of these boats. If anything had happened or gone wrong in one of those rooms, it may well have then spread into the tender. However, from the reports I read, there was no internal damage which would make you think that the fire originated on the boat itself. Crew members on board, they have special training. All of us that are part of fire teams or even responsible for fire teams have been through advanced firefighting training, which is a 5-day course along with 5 yearly refreshers that takes us through all different kinds of firefighting scenarios. We ourselves are donned in full BA, breathing apparatus, and put into hot, smoke-filled, fire-filled scenarios to fight fires and take the best action. We also work on coordinating the whole event as well and work against multiple types of different fires at the same time in this training. So we do have quite a lot, but nothing really prepares you for something like this when your ship is on fire, you're not sure what's causing it, you're not sure what you can do to stop it other than work slowly, get some water on, and see if you can bring that temperature down, reduce the flame, and finally extinguish that fire. Fortunately for this ship, she was alongside and didn't have any passengers on board at the time, and only very few crew members, but that's also another scary thing. If you've not got many crew members on board, you don't know how many people you've got to throw at this thing, because obviously fighting a fire for over 3 hours, it was finally extinguished at 18:58, so over 3 hours later you're going to have to rotate people fighting this fire. It's not going to be a one-team job, so a very difficult situation. They did very well to bring it under control eventually. With regards to what's going on the bridge at this stage, you'd be expecting the captain or staff captain to be heading up some sort of command team, probably from what we would call a safety centre, which connects to the bridge, and from there they'll be organising, making plans and coordinating the plan of attack with the fire teams, and obviously then they can also be speaking with shoreside, getting some tugs and some fire teams and things coming to support the fire teams that we have on the ship itself. You can see that parts of the burning tender are dropping into the water as well, and potentially dropping down onto deck, extremely hot, potentially ignited things that may then cause a secondary fire lower down. So something else you've got to worry about, and you want to be cooling down that area as fast as possible with as much help as you can get. Fortunately in this case, as I said, no one was injured, and they managed to get that fire under control and extinguished. And what will happen now to the ship remains to be seen. Most likely it'll either go off for repairs, or as it's one of the oldest ships in the fleet for MSC and now will cost quite a lot of money to repair, they may decide to not bother, sell it, scrap it. Who knows? That remains to be seen, and not a decision that I will be told about for a while yet. They're going to have to move it out of the harbour most likely, and whether they'll do that under its own power, as I'm sure none of the equipment was damaged, or whether they'll use tugs to move it on to a safer location in the meantime. Anyway, a full inquiry will go on. MAIB will probably get involved and go and check it out, as well as internal inquiries with MSC as to the most likely cause of this fire and how they can then prevent it in the future, whether it's using the systems that we discussed or something else entirely. Who knows? Let's see. I hope you enjoyed this, me bringing you my experience and what they would be doing on board, the kind of reactions they would have. I would not want this to be happening to me on my ship or any of my ships, or I would not want this to happen to anybody, to be honest, in the industry. It's very unfortunate, and they did well to get through it like they did. If you have enjoyed this, guys, please stick with me. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be bringing you regular content all about what I'm doing in my career, what's going on with the fleet at the moment around, especially during this incredibly unique time. So if you do like the sound of that, check it out. Every week I'll be trying to bring you a vlog with more information. I just wanted to bring you this quick reaction video and give you my input on the events that happened yesterday. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll leave it there for today. If you have any questions, do put them in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you and fill you in, and maybe I'll bring you another update video in the future with what the final decision was with the ship. I do actually have a friend in the MSC office in London, so maybe I'll try and get some information out of them for you. Okay guys, in the meantime, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you very soon. Thanks for watching.